Oh, hello. A bonus video today because they've given us a new balanced data slate for Kill Team. That's right. The balanced data slate for Quarter 3 2023 has arrived. Are we in Quarter 3? I guess we are. Let's go. Pathfinder buffs. So this is funny. The data for a while, if you've been watching like Last Half Dead or Can You Roll a Crit or any of those other guys that go through the Hot Sauce Teddy's data set, you will have seen the Pathfinders are down at the bottom. And everybody's in waving this off as, oh well, Pathfinders can't possibly get a buff. Pathfinders, it's an artifact of the data. Well, Is Workshop disagrees. They've given Pathfinders a buff. I think it does seem like sensible. It's a targeted buff, okay? It's aimed at Into the Dark, right? So this comes in two parts. The first one is when they're in the Koyon Art of War, okay? In addition, once in each of their activations, friendly Pathfinder operatives can perform a mission action or the pickup action for one less action point to a minimum of 0 AP. So this is mostly targeted towards Into the Dark. Because, of course, Into the Dark opening doors is a really important part of being able to move around the board. Not to downplay it, though. Free mission actions are great on open as well. Ask your Phobos players about that. So it is a little bit of a buff, generally. Okay, but it is mainly targeted towards Into the Dark. And in some open board games, there's no mission actions to do, so it'll do absolutely nothing in those games. And then the second one is explicitly Into the Dark only. So when you're playing in the Galifall, each friendly Pathfinder operative can perform the guard action while it has the conceal order. But if it does, interrupt as normal, but instead of making a guard attack, you can perform a Markerlight action if you're able to. That's cute. That's cute and interesting and fun. I like the idea of that as a buff. You can go on guard, you can shine your Markerlights at people. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. I think those are, for all I know, people will be rolling their eyes at the idea of Pathfinders actually getting buffed, given how dominant Pathfinders have been historically. I think those are pretty cool, pretty targeted buffs for the particular game mode in which Pathfinders were finding it particularly challenging. Warp Coven. So Warp Coven received, mainly what they received is a fix, and they also received a buff. A pretty big buff in a way as well, actually. So, the previous balanced data slate, they changed the rubric command ability, and they gave all the rubrics plus 1 APL, and then they said, but if they're on, the rubric command ability was like, unless you're within range of the sorcerer, then you are on minus 1 APL, and then technically what would happen is, if your sorcerers were dead, there was nowhere for that rule to be coming from, so you just always had 3 APL once your sorcerers were dead. So they've just moved that around, so that rubric command ability is gone, and now the rubric marines gain the sorcerer's command ability that says they have minus 1 APL, unless they're within red of a friendly sorcerer. So it worked exactly as it did, they just got rid of the really strange rules interaction that existed with the previous way that they did it. And then the real buff is down the bottom here. There's something in Battle Honours, which is a narrative rule I don't understand, so I'm going to skip it. I'm sorry. And then the real buff is down the bottom here. Archetypes. So Warp Coven now have access to the recon or security archetypes regardless of the operatives they select. Previously, you had to take at least a couple of goats if you wanted to get recon, and you had to take at least a rubric if you wanted to get security. So, you can now run pure rubric and go into recon, which I think a lot of Warp Coven players will enjoy that because Recon's a really strong deck. So that's good. Nice to see Warp Coven not getting forgotten about, as an old team and a White Dwarf team. A lot of people accuse GW of being like, oh yeah, we just want to sell more kits. It's nice to see these are still being kept, in with the meta and still being looked at, which is positive. Galapox. So Galapox got a reasonably... It's a small nerf in terms of the amount of words on the document, but I think it will have a rather large effect on them. So they got a nerf to their Rust Emanation Strategic Ploy. You can now basically only keys off the big bulky guys, the big ogre type things. So this was their counts as injured aura. And this is, I don't think I ever played against Galapox. I've just dodged them, and I've never used my Galapox. I have them painted from the last edition, but I don't think I ever used them. But my understanding is this will tone the team down quite a bit. Right. So, again, hard to judge, but it's a very small nerf in terms of the amount of verbiage they've used. But I think it will have a big effect. Right, this one's the slightly contentious one. I think Starstriders have got a tiny buff. We had a big long chat about this one on the Discord because it's a little bit unclear if you compare the wording of this with the wording of what was in the previous balanced Dataslate, what they've actually changed. So it says now for Undaunted Explorers, the first time an attack dice are resolved against it, instead of the first time it fights in combat or a shooting attack is made against it, the damage is halved to the minimum of 2 rounding up. So the bit about the damage being halved to a minimum of 2, that's not changed. The verbiage here is changed. Now we think what this means is, when a dice is resolved, right, that means it has to be a hit. So basically, what we think that they're saying is, previously, if I shot you, and then I happened to miss, I whiffed, I missed with all of my shots, you were still targeted with a shooting attack. So that would still exhaust, if you like, your Undaunted Explorer's ability to halve damage. Whereas now it has to be the first time that an attack actually has some dice in that are resolved. Doesn't matter if you parry them or if you save them with a shooting attack, that's still resolving the dice, but it does mean the dice have to at least be hits, I think. Right? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it does. But it's a little curious, a little backwards and forwards. I had a couple of different other ideas of what it could have meant. So, if you've got a particular idea of what this actually means that is different from what I've said, let me know in the comments. If you think I'm 110% correct as well, do let me know in the comments as well. Alright? And then in the realms of weird ones, we're going to look at the Exaction Squad. You can see the asterisks here. They've definitely changed something when it comes to the Exaction Squad. Each time a friendly operative with this ability makes a shooting attack with a weapon that doesn't have the blast pressure rule or the word grenade in its name, if the target is within circle of another friendly Exaction Squad operative, that ranged weapon has the P1 critical hit rule for that shooting attack. Now that rule was already in the previous balanced Dataslate. They've just, rather than relying on some of the verbiage that was already in the rules of sufficiency ability, and saying, in addition, they've just restated all that verbiage. I think that's basically because there were folks on the internet elsewhere trying to argue that 2 and 2 makes 5, right? It's one of these things sometimes it's hard when you read the FAQ. If you're a reasonable person that's prepared to kind of go, well, this is what they mean, so let's assume that's the rule, and then they rewrite it so that what you assumed was the rule is in fact the rule, and then there's all these other people out there on the internet somewhere who want to argue about what the rule really technically says. I think it's a case of that where they've cleaned it up, where people were arguing like, oh, it only works if you're in combat with them because it says in addition, and then it's saying that in addition to this other clause, and I don't know. Rather than trying to get into the mind of madness of the people that argue in Discord about what things mean when it's very obvious what they're supposed to mean, but people get very kind of lawyery and go, oh, but technically it says this. I think this is just a clean up about that, right? If I'm wrong, again, let me know if they've materially changed something, but I don't think Exaction Squad have actually really changed, unless you were being very panicky about what you thought the rules might have said. Okay? Right, now we're on to the real meat of the thing. Hearthkin buffs. So Hearthkins have got loads of buffs. So first of all, they got +1 wounds. Wounds creep is real. Everyone has an 8 wound team now. I mean, dwarves, I think the dwarves should actually have 9 wounds now. I mean, if a Kazakin has 8 wounds, dwarves' whole thing is they're supposed to be like fat and hardy. So, I don't know. But it's nice that they've at least got +1 wound. That's good. And then it's kind of funny, you read it and you're like, Hearthkin Field Medic Operative's Plasma Knife gains a lethal 5-up special rule. They're like, why have they given the medic a lethal 5-up knife? And then you read on and you realise, oh, they wanted to make the Plasma Knife equipment 4 attacks with lethal 5 up, and then they've thought for that kind of harmony between the lore and the narrative and the game, they decided that they would go back and buff the field medic's plasma knife that they come with for free. So now plasma knives all have lethal 5 up. If it's called a plasma knife, it has a coherent profile, so that's a good thing. And so yeah, you've got access, much like the Kazakin, you've got access to a slightly better close combat piece of equipment. Maybe that will help. And then from what I can see, a really big buff is the Thane. So the Thane's the Ancestor's ability is really key because it lets you pass out grudge tokens once per turn. And what they've basically gained here is the ability that if 3 or more of your operatives are dead, you can pass out 2 grudge tokens. So you have kind of a combat mechanic there. I think these buffs are good. Are they good enough? I've never played into or as the Hearthkin. Now, I appreciate what Games Workshop's trying to do. They don't want another AdMech scenario where they take a struggling team, they buff it, and then it becomes the best team in the game, and they have to come back and nerf it. But reading through these, I know there's a lot there in terms of verbiage, but I'm not... If you're a Hearthkin player, do these buffs excite you? Do you think, yeah, that's it, that's Hearthkin tuned now? Let me know. Because to my unknowing eye, it kind of looks a bit like, yeah, we're going to have to come back again in 3 months and buff them again, aren't we? But we'll see. We will see. It is better for them to do things incrementally. And there is a lot here in terms of text. So, we'll see. We'll see. Felgors! Oh my gosh, these seem to have been nerfed into the ground. I've kind of been feeling sorry for Felgor for a while, because Felgor have been carrying the can for being this really broken team for a while, and they were like the top team in the meta for like a hot minute, and then Chaos Cults came out, and if you look at the data again, it is Chaos Cults and Galapox that are on top, and then Felgor are further down the bottom, in just below those things, but they did need adjusting. I don't know. I don't play these guys. I don't think I ever played into them because I just haven't played very much Kill Team against this latest round of teams. So 2 things. The first one is you can now kill a frenzied Felgor Ravager with a ranged crit. So it's Christmas for the Kazakin, and anyone else that has something that can, even on a fairly pathetic weapon, if you can guarantee a crit, then you've got a decent... you've got a way now of killing out those goats from range. But really, really key, Frenzied Felgar now just can't control objectives. So they've really lost that ability that they had to just be really, really good at playing the objective game. And now, you no longer need to go and solve the Felgor problem, right? If you are... I mean, you're not going to win a game by hanging back necessarily, but if you are hanging back, at least when you shoot the Felgor... right, and kill them, they stand around being frenzied and not within charge range of you. You don't have to go over there and deal with it because they're on objective scoring points, because once they're frenzied, the only thing that they can be doing with themselves is attacking you in close combat. So if you are kiting them effectively, then you can just let them wander around in the middle and die, right? Because they die once they finish their 1 extra activation after being frenzied, right? And you can also shoot them and kill them. So, yeah, I think this is a significant nerf for Felgor. Hopefully the Felgor, I think they should still be fun to play and have their unique play style, but they're just going to be far less dominant in terms of how many points they can score. So that's good. Chaos Cult nerfs. A lot, and again they're significant. So first the Icon Arc, the Icon Bearer. Their Ruinous Deterioration and Ruinous Invigoration abilities become unique actions that cost 1 AP, last until the start of that operative's next activation, and Ruinous Invigoration's damage reduction is reduced to a minimum of 3 instead of 2. I don't like these changes. And it might be that they're justified if you take the power of the team as a whole. But I never like it when you're on a team and one of your special guys just isn't very good. And now the Icon Arch just isn't very good, right? These kind of utility models, basically it's the inverse. If you think about the Galapox Infected, the Galapox Infected had the Tech Priest guy with the cool 2 abilities, and then you never used them because you were a 2 APL guy that often wanted to move and shoot. and not turn on your abilities, and they're like, okay, the ability is free, and that made that model more useful. Now, I'm not saying the overall power level of the team doesn't warrant the nerf. I think the overall power level of the team probably does warrant the nerf. They're doing ridiculously well. But it's sad that they've tried to achieve that by making, I think, the Icon Arc is now just going to be a not particularly fun piece to use. It's going to be annoying. It's going to be full of like little annoying trade-offs. Like, oh, well, like I can do this thing, but then I need to move up to make sure I'm actually within 2 circle, and then I'm not going to get to shoot my flamethrower thing that I've got. And maybe they needed the change, right? And maybe people are screaming at the screen. And I'm not saying this because I secretly have an agenda of keeping Chaos Cults really powerful. I just think it's a bit sad they had to do it that way. However, a change I will do no hand-wringing about whatsoever is that they've changed the Feel No Pain type save to a 6 from a 5 on the Mutant and the Torment, so that's good. You know, Feel No Pain 6 up is fine, and Feel No Pain 5 up is broken, and it's that simple. You know. The Sickening Aura strategic ploy. So this is a strategic ploy that gives you -1 BS and weapon skill while you're within circle. It used to key off mutants, torments, and Dark Commune operatives. It now no longer keys off Dark Commune operatives. I think that's fine. It makes good lore, logical sense, right? It's the gribbly, putrid mutanty fellows that have the Sickening Aura. The relatively human guys in hoods are less sickening. I like that change. And then the mutants, blasphemous appendages, instead of being relentless, they're ceaseless. So it is a nerf to the effectiveness in combat. Hopefully the mutants can still kill things pretty effectively, but now they're a little bit less deadly, which is probably for the best. Like, I'm not arguing that Chaos Cults didn't need these nerfs. I agree with most of the nerfs. I just think it's a shame for the Icon guy, right? Like, paying an action point to turn on an ability like an aura just always seems like like, I was so pleased when I was playing Starstriders when they gave the Tech Priest his abilities for free. I think it feels bad to have to pay one of your action points to turn on your ability. But that's just me, right? Let's get on to Inquisition. Inquisition got some quite good nerfs as well, right? So, operative selection. Including ancillary support, you can only select up to 2 operatives equipped with weapons that have the AP2 special rule, even if only in one of their profiles. So this is huge, and it's going to massively affect the list building part of Inquisition, because previously a lot of people were taking Inquisition with the Duelist and the Plasma Cannon Servitor, right, and then they would ally in Kazakin or Vetguard to get a plasma gun and a melter gun, right, as 4 AP2 weapons. Now you can't do that. It's really going to alter the maths for the list building element of Inquisition. I think it's going to make the Arbites are really, like, a lot of people already like the Arbites with Inquisition, and now you've got this cap as well, so it's like, well, I've got my plasma pistol and I've got my plasma cannon, and I'll take some Arbites who don't bring AP2 weapons. I think that's going to be popular. I also think double Inquisition might be looking a bit more popular now, because you can get a heavy bolter, you know? One thing that might be sad is if people decide, well, I want long-range plasma, so if I'm capped at 2 AP2 weapons, I'm going to take, I'll take the heavy bolter servitor, I won't take the pistolier, and then I'll ally in my Kazakin to get, I'll take the plasma cannon servitor, but I won't take the pistolier, and then I'll ally in the Kazakin and get the plasma gun that way. People might decide that's the most optimal thing to do. I'd be sad, because as previously stated, the Duelist is the nicest miniature in the whole set. So if it becomes a case that the Duelist blocks you, is a thing that is suboptimal to take, because you want to take a plasma cannon and also a plasma gun because of range. That's sad. The Tome Skull and the Interrogator now have GA2 and fulfill each other's group activation requirements. So this is a nerf. It nerfs your number of activations, and activations are king. It does, though, kind of give you something else to at least play around with. Maybe there's something there you can do where you can activate, your skull can zoom forwards, and then you were like, and then you get like a long-range shot if you've got that equipment with, on your interrogator that lets him shoot his auto pistol at long range. Maybe it's a bit meh, right? But it also does mean that maybe you might want to. I think they could stand to give them the. It means you can swap tomes, and you might actually do the tome swapping thing a bit more, like than the never that you were previously going to do it. And then Absolute Authority nerf. I absolutely agree with this. Absolute Authority was the one where basically, like a counterspell in Magic, you just told somebody they couldn't do that ploy, which is fun and cool and interesting for the Inquisition player, and really kind of negative for the person that have being effectively counterspelled, right? And when you consider that there are some teams that are really built away around doing their tactical ploys, I think this is a good change. So now it can only stop each ploy once per battle. And it can't ever stop a ploy that costs 0 CP. And most of the teams that have a ploy that's absolutely integral to their playstyle, the ploy costs 0 CP. So the Necron's Reanimation Protocol, I think, is 0 CP, right? So yeah, I think those are pretty balanced nerfs to the Inquisition. It'll be interested to see where Inquisition list building shakes out now with that AP2 limit. So herein is the question. Is this everything you hoped for, right? I had a video out the other day sort of saying, don't get too wound up about the meta, don't let the meta get you down, kill team's still great. If you're one of these people who's wound up about the meta, are you now, your fears allayed? Are you now much happier and confident and wanting to think about kill team again? Let me know. Drop me a comment or pop into the hobby stream later tonight. So I do a hobby live stream every Tuesday at 7:30ish PM. I don't normally do a video before it. This is because there's news, and where there's news, there's... Oh, that's Glass Half Dead's catchphrase. When there's something to talk about, there's people that want to listen to what you're talking about. Yeah, there we go. Did I miss anything in the? I'm pretty sure I got all the asterisks, but have I misunderstood something or become confused? Very possible. I'm a very confused person. Let me know in the comments as well. And please just do all the things the algorithm enjoys. Please subscribe. It's not for you, it's for me. Yeah, if you like the channel, you press subscribe, the number goes up, then I feel better. You may not care. You may be quite happy typing in Tabletop Impulse to see if I happen to uploaded any videos, but I'd appreciate your subscription. All right. And the Discord, if you want to be part of the chat, if you wanted to find out what the balanced Dataslate had gone live, if you wanted to weigh in on what the words meant on the page, the balanced Dataslate is where the Discord server is where you needed to be. Okie dokie, I have rambled on for 23 minutes, so that will be that. And I will see hopefully you later tonight, 7:30 PM in the hobby stream. Have a great evening. Cheery bye.